Good morning, YouTube. Yep, that's the only platform I'm on. Not because I have any exclusivity deal or anything, just I'm lazy. Anyways, good morning. How is everyone? I hope everyone had a fantastic break, hopefully you got some break. I know I took last week off, so today I don't have as much stuff to cover because I took a lot of last week off. So I am going to rely more on you guys. If you saw something that's not covered here, please leave a comment. Actually, join the comments. YouTube likes it anyways. If you leave a comment and yeah, let me know. Let me know what I missed. Let me know what you guys saw. And yeah. Anyways, let's jump into it. Now, as you guys know, and as I say every single time I give a news, these are my own thoughts. I don't represent anybody, not my past, present, or future corporations that I work for. And these are just my own thoughts. And so yeah, that's what we're gonna get. And no, I have not been paid by anybody to say anything or bring anything up. So anyways, let's jump right into this, right into the Y2K. Microsoft has a bug with the dates. And anyways, they have a fix for it, but I found it very funny. If none of you guys remember, back in 2000, well, prior to 2000, everyone had this scare that systems that used just the last two digits of the year would fail with Y2K. I believe that there were some systems vulnerable to that, but they were patched well before 2000, and nothing really happened. But I guess Exchange servers have been failing for the last couple of days based off of this. They do have a fix with it's kind of, okay, I don't appreciate this. If you have a script, you need to sign it, and you can't just let people click on this. I know it's protected under HTTPS, but that's still kind of, you need a way to sign it and secure that it's from you. So, Microsoft, you should know better. You should know better. Anyways, they do have a script though, so you can check out the script, see what the script does, and do what you want with it. But yeah, so I found this funny. So I guess if you sent email to somebody with an Exchange server and they haven't responded, it might be because yeah, I guess Exchange servers 2016 and 2019, the malware, I guess it's part of the malware, keeps crashing. So like it can't scan the messages, and thus just never lets them through. So the things that scan for malware and phishing and whatnot, I didn't know that people still used on-premise Exchange, which is kind of an interesting thing. I guess I'm sure banks do. I guess even banks, I don't know. I haven't been at a major corporation that uses on-premise Exchange for a long time. I've worked at some pretty major companies. I don't work for them anymore, but I don't know. Just not many people self-host it. It's more expensive, I think, than their online service. It's close. Maybe if you're at really large scale, maybe it's cheaper. I don't know. Generally, I think that it's more expensive because you have to pay for the servers that you run it on, plus the software itself. It's not like Exchange is free. And yeah, anyways, that was it. There was another Log4j security vulnerability that was out there. I don't think it was a big deal. I think it was a 6. Um, Obviously you should patch anytime that you can, but not a big deal. And this is kind of common. There was a lot of people like saying, "Hey, this must be the end of Log4j because it's had five five vulnerabilities in the last month." And the fact is, a project like Log4j got no security scrutiny ever. And then because of what happened, it got a lot of security. So of course they're going to find a bunch of little bugs because that's what happens. And now the project is even better. So if you thought you shouldn't be on Log4j, it's now a better project because of it. So like you probably should be on it now. Like it's probably a better project. So Happy New Year's to you too. If nobody knows the DevOps world, he does like a blog, and you know I'll put a link to it in the description. He does a Telegram blog, I believe it is. With I mean I follow it, so I say I believe, but I mean actually. That you guys should follow. He posts a bunch of awesome information, and so you should go check him out. And I really appreciate his insight. He has some really great insight on stuff, so definitely check him out. And thanks for joining. It's good to see you here. I hope you had a good New Year's. All right, so something I talk about a lot, and so I found a blog article, and I think I'm going to make a video on it because I kind of had the same thing that this person had. So I'm always talking about how you should verify your container signatures because of supply chain hacks and attacks. And this person uses Gatekeeper, which is part of OPA, a project I've talked about how you can use it to validate things. There's some other ways to also validate your images. So if you're looking into that, there are a few ways. You don't just have to use Gatekeeper, but you can. And if you're using OPA already, then OPA might be a Gatekeeper might be a great choice. And so this is a blog, and I'm going to put it. This is my engineering blog of the week because this person has made a blog on something that, yeah, that needs to be done. Anyways, yeah, I run under the same thing. I keep being asked how to verify container signatures, and I keep just telling people that they need to. So, anyways, this is a good blog article on how to do it. It's not very long if you want to run through it. I would say that it would take you probably about 10 minutes if you already have a Kubernetes cluster with kind. So it's not very long, pretty easy. I would say go and get familiar with this content because verifying your container images and making sure you only use signed container images is really important. And not just that you used signed container images, but that you also validate those images. Like it's useless if you don't validate the keys being set. So definitely go check this out. It's cosign. This is one way to sign a container image. This is what I think is the most popular way. So the OPA policy gatekeeper manager is going to use cosign, and oh, you had snow. I didn't have snow. We get dreary rain here. Anyways, it uses cosign. Cosign's like I would probably say the industry standard. Yeah, yeah, industry standard for signing container images. And then here's is just a link on the OPA gatekeeper. So OPA has a bunch of things because it's an open policy agent. Yeah, I remembered its name now. But there are a lot of different things it can do. Gatekeeper is just one part of OPA. So anyways, check all this out. I'm going to leave links to all of these. Here's the open policy agent that you can check out. Here's a blog article on Gatekeeper and the fantastic article on how to actually combine all of those things into one. And I will be making a video on this because it's something I harp on all the time. And the fact that I don't have a video to say, go check out how to do it. Yeah, I probably should have a long time ago. Because it's important. It's really important that you do this. In that case, all I have left is like some interesting blog articles that we can talk about. I did follow this and I didn't alert anybody because originally LastPass had been accused of leaking passwords and it turned out that they hadn't. I had never seen any real evidence that they had. But they did suffer from a stuffing attack from some users. So if you are using LastPass, you should definitely make sure that you understand what this type of an attack is and how it affects you. So yeah, Anyways, I generally am a huge fan of password managers. You can make strong passwords and not have to remember a bajillion of them. So it's a good practice. All right. This was interesting. If you're looking to migrate Prometheus and Grafana, um, this is really good. I think that it says monitoring solution to AWS. You could take these steps that I read here and really insert any managed service here, and it would work just as well, just as easily. It looked quite well done and is just a pretty basic how do you migrate your Prometheus and Grafana. It was well written out with a lot of pretty pictures. I like pretty pictures. If I don't know if you guys, anyways, it makes it easier for me to understand, and so I like this because they went through the work of actually visualizing what they were saying, and it was solid. So if that's you, I would check this out. Interesting thing here was ILO rootkit. So there was this is the first one that I know of. Is this so if you don't know what the lights out is, the integrated lights out on a server, it's basically hardware management that companies provide. So you can manage, I have a server and I can actually manage it from my computer even if it's off. That ILO is going to be on. So the ILO bleed is a rootkit targeting HP's ILO solution. This is pretty big because it's never been done before. And so most of the time, ILOs, yeah, I've never seen an ILO that has suffered from an attack before. Not saying that they don't have backdoors in them. They generally work very hard not to. But this has a ILO yeah, so if you have HP servers, you need to understand what's affected by here, how to patch it, and how to stay safe from keeping your servers being vulnerable. Now, one of the good things here is usually the ILO port isn't public to the internet. I mean, it shouldn't be public to the internet. At best, you have to have like a jump host to get to it that you can securely access. So so generally, yes, the ILO ports always have their own Ethernet, so own physical cable that's usually plugged into their own physical network. That's not it's air gapped, so it's you have to like have jump hosts in place to do that. So anyhow, I'm not sure how big of a deal it is. If I learn anything more on it, I will let you guys know. But yeah, it's out there. AWS has the best infrastructure icons. I think I agree with you. GCPs are pretty rough. Uh, AWS does AWS does a really good job. I agree with you. They give you can go and download their presentation. Actually, let me go Google that. Their presentation kit has a ton of their things. AWS Pres Sorry, I don't search Google Live. Um, I can't find it off the top of my head, but yes, they have a great presentation. I'll put a link to it so you guys can find it in the description after this because yeah, they do have a great presentation kit. So if you're wondering where all these icons come from that everybody uses, there's two. So Kubernetes, you can search for Kubernetes icons. That is in the Kubernetes project, Kubernetes community. So if you do GitHub, uh, if you go here and go to icons, they're all right here. So this is the icon set for Kubernetes. So if you're wondering where those come from, I don't even know how we came up on this topic. You know what I don't know? GCP's icon set presentation is horrible. I don't know about Azure. I've never actually looked for Azure, and I don't see people using it. So I'm assuming it either doesn't exist or it's worse than GCP's. Um, but yeah. All right, all right. Back on track. Back on track. So ILOs. But again, this goes to my layers of security, which is something I harp on. Like I said, if your ILO is, it should never be accessible by the internet anyways in the first place. So as long as you keep these layers of security, you should always be safe. All right. This was a pretty good article on visitor patterns. Now, I hesitate to put patterns in because I think sometimes people get stuck on a pattern and say, "Hey, this is the pattern we're using. It's the one that I am comfortable with, what and whatnot," and they make design decisions that don't make sense to what they're doing. But patterns are really useful because they are very much so, when your code starts, when you start writing your code, a lot of times it will follow a pattern, and following a pattern is important and useful because then it's easy to understand what's happening. So I'm not saying design patterns are bad. I'm also just saying that don't learn one design pattern and say, hey, I have a hammer, so everything's a nail. That's what I find happens with patterns too often. Sometimes you'll solve a problem that isn't leverageable by a pattern, and so the visitor pattern doesn't solve every problem well. It's just like every algorithm or every container type doesn't solve every problem. So that's my one caveat to this before I say this was a really um, well-written blog on the visitor pattern in the kubectl command line tool. And so if you use kubectl and wanting to know how it works in the back end, I learned quite a bit from this. You can do your kubectl get and your kubectl edit on your resource types and resource names, and how it does its visitor pattern is really, really cool on how they leveraged it and how it works really well for it. So I would definitely read this if you're interested in that. Exactly, DevOps. It is a design pattern is just a construct for communication ideas between developers. English is not your first language, and you say it so much better than I do. English is my only language. But yeah, so anyways, if you're wanting to know what the visitor pattern is, they do a pretty good job up here of describing the visitor pattern and then about how it's implemented. So anyways, if you're trying to learn about the visitor pattern, if you're wanting to understand kubectl a little bit better, this is a great article to read. All right, here are a little bit of some nerdy ones. This one actually solidifies why I believe Rust will, and I didn't put it on my text to watch because I feel like Rust kind of had its breakout year last year. And it's not like one of those things to watch. It's here. It's already there, but it is something that I think is going to start replacing Go. And Uber here proved why I believe that. They saved 70,000 cores, 70,000 by tuning Go garbage collection. So a lot of people will be like, oh, Go's garbage collection isn't so bad. In the standard case, Go's garbage collection isn't so bad. But 70,000 cores, that's quite a bit of money. We can do the math, but if you think $5 per core is probably cheap, $5 per core, that's a lot of money. You're talking about millions of dollars a month. And this is just by optimizing garbage collection. Something you don't have to worry about in Rust. Yes, Kubernetes does itself enforce some patterns. You're correct. It does, and that's a design choice. And I mean, it's good to have when you have a project. It's good to have solid design patterns that you follow in your base case. The only reason I brought it up is sometimes people will learn the visitor pattern, and then all of a sudden every problem they have is solved by the visitor pattern, and it's just a tool. That was my only point that I wanted to bring out. Yep. I I just feel like at this point I suck at Rust. I'm still learning Rust, but I feel like at this point everybody should be learning Rust because if you're not, um, I think that you should use Rust. I think it will save you money, your company money in the end, and you'll have a faster service anyways, and more concise. Also, I have this big thing that I really like failing fast. This is why I don't like Python in general. Python for a script is completely different, but I mean Python in like a web service. I want my thing to fail as fast as possible. And a garbage collector or something that has extra things outside of just my code can fail in ways that I didn't expect it to in production. Your garbage collection could start spiking your service and causing latency in places where you just wouldn't expect it. And this is where I want what's going to fail before I get to production. And if it doesn't fail before I get to production, it's not going to fail. Again, this is why I don't like duck typing, is because it could fail anytime. And so this is my principle, and another reason I like Rust, despite just saving money, is I like languages that are going to fail on me quickly. And the Rust compiler is an angry, grumpy old man, and he does not like any of the code that you write. And so it fails very quickly for me, especially for me. It fails very quickly. It's an exhilarating experience. I hope you're all enjoying this slightly more laid back version of this. I don't have too much more to go through. These were just the things I found. Anyways, Engineering, it was a good one. If you run Go microservices, as probably most of us do, it was I learned a lot from it, and I've used Go for quite a bit. So definitely check it out. And just as I say something against Python, DevOps brings out Python. I also don't dislike Go. Go did a lot of things really correct. Yeah. All right. I don't know why I still have this. I was reading this. This was okay. I kind of thought they were announcing that they were open sourcing this, but they didn't. It's still a good article, especially if you're looking at multi-tenant task processing. So when you think about multi-tenant task processing, you can think of something like Argo workflows. That's kind of similar. Um, and of course, Uber had to create their own. So that's what this is. And they talk about some of the things that they had to solve with a multi-tenant task workflow and how they did it with yeah. So anyways, it was good. In the Netflix area, I'm a huge supporter of AV1, if I am with most things open source. And it was fun read on video encoding. So if you're interested in video encoding, I used to do a lot of video encoding stuff, so I still keep up on it. If you're interested in video encoding, check it out. All right, and then I always love Cloudflare's 2021. So this is just a breakdown of the changes in 2021 from the previous year. So you can see the most popular domains. This saddens me how that TikTok is our most popular domain. I can tell you that it wasn't from our house, but anyways, they break down the internet and with a ton of stats. So just most popular social media, but also like just streaming and the data that they streamed through their services. So it has a ton of information. It's not that useful it's just interesting. Not that useful from like my perspective. You know, I'm not learning anything for my job here, but it is interesting on seeing how people use the internet. And if you're wanting to make a company or something, it would be useful to understand this information. I found this article quite interesting. From 0 to 20 billion, how we built web crawler hints. So this was basically just optimizing a web crawler, and that was it. This is all I had. I thought this was cool because Cloudflare does a bunch of stuff for crawling the internet, and yeah, that if you want to make your own web crawler, this is a great blog article to read. Anyways, that's pretty much it for me today. I know that was kind of short. I took most of last week off. I played some games. I built a game with my children, and we built quite possibly the most advanced home greenhouse ever. It uses Arduinos, Raspberry Pis. I probably have to make a video edit sometime. We put a lot of work into it. We have some automatic watering and light and a bunch of stuff. It's completely automatic, and it's kind of like one of those hydroponics, except we built it and jerry-rigged some stuff, so it was kind of fun. And then we built a Minecraft clone. Ours is better. Actually, it's worse in every single way. Minecraft is a better game. But it was a lot of fun. We spent the week just learning new stuff, so I didn't have a ton of time to collect more articles. I think the internet was half dead last week anyways, so I'm not sure that, yeah. What tools do you use to monitor your home network? I use quite a few. Mostly, though, I use Ubiquiti. I do like their products. I think that they're a great prosumer choice. Whatever your feelings are on Ubiquiti as a company, they are, yeah, I think they're a great prosumer choice. They bring enough features without needing to be an expert in home networking equipment. I have my CCNA. I have a massive CCNA book up there. But even then, I don't want to sit here and manage my own home network. And so they bring a happy medium where I have enough control and whatnot. I also use pfSense sitting between my Ubiquiti and my outside for my firewall. Ubiquiti doesn't have the greatest firewall. And so between those two things, I filter most stuff. I used to run Pi-hole before pfSense, but pfSense has pretty much, yeah, it has stopped me from needing that. One thing to note, so I run my own DNS servers that go out with an encrypted communication for DNS. Interesting note, I blocked all DNS queries. So if it's not coming from my internal server to outside, basically port 53 is blocked because I don't need it. And did you know that Google devices will fail? Like Google, we have a Chromecast was made useless by this, which I think is a horrible flaw on their part. Their Chromecasts actually call Google's DNS, period. They don't use your DNS. They don't use your provider's DNS. They use, because basically at my router, and this is for security and a lot of reasons, at the router, you're redirected to my DNS, and then my DNS goes out. But my DNS also has block lists, which TikTok is not on that. But if I ever find it on my network, I probably will add TikTok to that block list. But yeah, that's the general my network overview. DevOps, you also use Ubiquiti? Yeah, I really like them. Like they provide the simplest solution and allow me to do a bunch of stuff that's really cool, but I don't have to like get down into the nerdy bits, and I don't have the time. I love the nerdy little bits, but at some point you just have to click that easy button and let somebody else handle it for you. So yeah, I do really like Ubiquiti. They're also fairly cost effective. I say fairly. If you're talking about your $50 wireless router, yeah, it's not really. Not really at all. My hope is at one point to actually run a null channel server out of my home if I get the time to actually program it. I think that would be fun, but I haven't done that yet. Well, cool. Thanks for asking the questions. Think of these questions. Anytime you have questions you'd like to ask me, even if it's just what I do at home, and what I do at home isn't necessarily good. Um, we can do a deep dive sometime on my home network. I don't know that it's that interesting. I have like 4 or 5 networks. So some stuff like I do all IoT. My wife and children really like smart speakers, and I really don't like them, but they're on their own network. The few that we do have, and so I do a little bit of that stuff, that type of stuff. And then I have the Google smart speakers on their own network, and then I have another network that I do my IoT stuff. So we have a whole bunch of home automation outside of that that's on its own network, and that doesn't have internet access and isn't accessible. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, we can do a deep dive on it. I do want to create the null cloud. Absolutely. I think the null cloud would be so much fun. The only reason I struggle with putting it on my home is I'd love to give people access to it so that they can learn from it. Kind of like a community cloud project. I don't know how that would work. Haven't figured that out yet. But when I do figure it out, we'll have one. But until then, we won't. All right. Well, I got to get to work. Thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your questions. And I look forward to spending 2022 with you guys.